Coming as families across the country spend the weekend gathering, celebrating Christmas together.
And so I expect that we will see a lot more. We're going to see that exponential growth continue for a few more weeks.
And cruise ships have been hit hard as well, having to skip destinations because of outbreaks on board. And this morning, we have learned that 3 members of the worldwide sensation K-pop band BTS have tested positive for COVID as well. Their management group tells us all 3 have had their second shot. Janae?
All right, Phil, thank you so much for those updates. And now to the growing holiday travel delays. Airlines already having canceled thousands of flights, in part due to COVID and crew shortages. ABC's Zoreen Shah is live at LAX this morning. Zoreen, good morning to you. Those cancellations already making travel tricky for so many.
Hey, good morning, Janae. Yeah, traveling during the holidays is never easy, but it's especially hard this year. Across the country, over 600 flights canceled today. And all of this comes after 1,600 flights were canceled on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. All of this creating major havoc across airports. Delta, JetBlue, and United all canceling around 100 flights at this hour. You can see this video of stranded travelers in South Florida, and the same scene playing out across the country, especially in big hubs like Newark Airport. So what is the reason behind many of these cancellations? Well, major airlines are reporting Omicron impacts. American Airlines saying their operation has been running smoothly, but unfortunately, a number of COVID-related sick calls led to pre-canceling some flights. Delta says a number of issues, including weather in some areas of the country and the Omicron variant, are driving cancellations and potential delays. United also saying this nationwide spike in Omicron cases this week has had a direct impact on flight crews and the people who run their operation. Now, while there are many cancellations, these make up just a very small percentage of all total flights. Still, you guys had the right idea, not getting on a plane this weekend. In addition to all these cancellations, of course, the big impacts due to just regular delays and bad weather in parts of the country. Janae?
All right, Doreen, thank you so much for that. And joining us now is Dr. John Brownstein of Boston Children's Hospital. Dr. Brownstein, thank you so much for being here the day after Christmas. We are seeing case levels in some states that we haven't seen in months. How concerned are you about this Omicron wave?
You know, this is really concerning. We're seeing cases now surpass the Delta wave, averaging over 170,000 cases a day. I think we can all relate, given how many cases we're seeing around us. And while it's good news that this variant is less severe, just the sheer number of infections means that we have concerns about our hospital capacity. And we're already seeing overwhelmed EDs across the country. And we know this much transmission only furthers viral evolution. And that's why it's so important to double down on vaccinations, testing, masking, all the things that we know work to keep transmission down in the community.
And to that point about hospitals, the CDC guidelines now shortening the isolation times for some healthcare workers if they test positive. Do you think that that could help those hospitals that could be crushed with patients?
I think it will. We don't know the optimal isolation time for Omicron, but of course this change means that, our healthcare workers might not be stuck in isolation at a time when we need our hospitals to be functioning. These guidelines don't apply to the public. That might change in the future, but for now, we need our hospitals running to potentially deal with a surge in the coming weeks.
And Dr. Brownstein, you are a parent just like I am, so it is concerning for parents when you hear that pediatric cases are rising. Here in New York, there are reports of a 4-fold increase since early December in children being hospitalized here in the New York City area. What does that tell you?
Well, we don't know yet whether Omicron affects kids differently, but the reality is so many of our children remain unvaccinated. About only a third of children under 18 are fully vaccinated at this point. And while we know COVID is less severe in our kids, we also know that it's had a real impact in our kids across severe illness and death. And that is why, it's so important for those that are eligible and around, especially our children under 5 who are yet to get the vaccine, to be vaccinated, to really cocoon them, protect them, especially as we're entering this surge.
And I know you mentioned before about the severity of Omicron. What do we know about how severe or less severe Omicron cases are?
We're finally getting good data coming in from different countries. It's showing actually good news about 50 to 70% lower risk of hospitalization when it comes to Omicron. This is something that, we're excited by because, of course, with this many infections, you'd want a hospitalization risk to be lower. But that still tells us that, with this many cases, we still have this concern. So yes, there's room to be optimistic about Omicron, but we can't let our guard down as we're entering in these coming weeks.
And Dr. Brownstein, real quickly, why is this variant moving so fast?
It's because of these mutations that is accumulated on the spike protein that increases its transmissibility and immune evasion. And this is why it's spreading, 2 to 3 times faster than the Delta variant. And this is why we have this concern. And of course, now is the time to double down: vaccination, testing, masking, reduce mobility. Let's get through these next few weeks together.
And that social distancing and isolation, all of that. Dr. Brownstein, thank you so much for being with us. Matt, over to you.
Janae, now to a key question for the tens of millions of Americans planning to travel back home this morning. When to leave to avoid delays. ABC's Zachary Keese joins us with some answers. Zachary, good morning.
And Matt, good morning to you as well. The ride home from grandma's crib really starts today for so many people. Some 100 million people were expected to travel over this holiday weekend. And this is really the first wave headed home. Travel platform Hopper considers today to be the third busiest travel day of the year. Translation: there's going to be traffic out there, and you should expect delays. At the airport, 2.4 million people are traveling at pace we've really been seeing the last number of days. Atlanta's airport is still considered by many to be the busiest. They're not alone. Plan accordingly. If you've been driving around New York City the last number of days, it has been a dream, but the roads will start to see some traffic again as well. The best times to roll out are going to be before 12 noon. That sweet spot for high traffic is 1 to 7. Again, between 1 and 7, you're going to see a lot of traffic on the road. New York City is experiencing some of the biggest bottlenecks in the country. Now, Monday, road traffic in some areas are expected to be more than 350% of the typical flow. So again, anticipate road conditions to be problematic moving into tomorrow. And if you're worried about cancellations or delays at the airport, your best bet is to look at that before you head to the airport. If you need to make changes, you can do that online. You can also look into insurance and see what other kind of protections you have. Janae?
From grandmother's house, so many go. Zachary, thank you so much. Well, we want to turn now to the breaking news overnight. South Africa's president announcing the death of activist and Nobel Peace Prize winner Archbishop Desmond Tutu. ABC's James Longman is in London with more on the man known affectionately as the Arch. James, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Janae. Desmond Tutu was a towering figure in South Africa's anti-apartheid movement. He was, of course, a contemporary of Nelson Mandela. He helped end that racist system of segregation, and he went on to become really an iconic spiritual leader. He'll be remembered as a man of peace who spent most of his life fighting inequality, poverty and injustice. Now, he became the first black Archbishop of Cape Town, but really it was his childhood that was spent under South Africa's brutally enforced apartheid system. His protests were both hard-hitting and non-violent. He was actually the first to campaign for economic sanctions. Tutu encouraged disinvestment, and it was that in 1985 when the US and the UK stopped all investments in South Africa that crippled the South African economy, and that forced the government into reforming. And when the international community awarded him the Nobel Peace Prize in 1984, he accepted it on behalf of the movement. It signaled really the beginning of the end for apartheid. Free elections were held in 1994, and at 63 years old, Tutu cast his first vote. In 2009, President Barack Obama awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Have a listen.
Desmond Tutu possesses that sense of generosity, that spirit of unity, that essence of humanity that South Africans know simply as Ubuntu.
And Tutu was 90 years old when he died. What a man, what a legacy. Will?
James Longman, that essence of humanity, a towering figure, a man of peace. James, thank you very much. And we're going to shift now to politics. As President Biden marks the holidays and approaches the end of his first year in office, ABC's Mary Alice Parks is live at the White House with more. Mary Alice, good morning.
Well, good morning. President Biden and the First Lady chose to spend the Christmas holiday right here in the nation's capital at the White House with their family. Sort of special for their first year. Yesterday, they sat with their brand new puppy and called members of the military stationed around the world and thanked them for their service. On Christmas Eve, they were out and around town. President Biden visited children at the National Children's Hospital. He attended Mass virtually, but also stopped by a Christmas tree downtown. The president said his message to Americans was to keep the faith. And in a written statement this Christmas, he had a similar theme. He said that this year we've seen enormous courage, character, resilience, and resolve, and that they are praying for, quote, the promise found in Scripture of finding light in darkness, which also happens to be perhaps the most American of things to do. Now, President Biden plans to spend some time home in Delaware this week coming up. Vice President Kamala Harris is back in her home state of California with family. Her team says that she received 2 more negative COVID tests. Both her and the president have been receiving more tests this week after they both had close contact with staff members who tested positive with breakthrough cases earlier this week. Will?
Mary Alice Parks with everything going on in Washington. Thank you. And be sure to turn into this week. Later this morning, Jonathan Karl goes one-on-one with Dr. Fauci on President Biden's plan to combat the Omicron variant. Plus, Dr. Ashish Jha will discuss how to stay safe this holiday week. Matt?
Now to the spectacular Christmas Day launch of the James Webb Space Telescope. Astronomers are counting on the $10 billion observatory to give them a view of 14 billion years deep into the past for new clues about the origin of the universe. After years of setbacks, a final week of technical glitches and high winds on Christmas Eve that forced one more delay. On Christmas Day, the Webb Space Telescope finally took off successfully from French Guiana aboard a European rocket. On board is a massive telescope with a giant gold-plated mirror more than 21 feet across. The new telescope will replace the aging Hubble Space Telescope that was put into orbit by a space shuttle crew in 1990. The Hubble did make breathtaking images, but needed in-space repairs by another shuttle crew. For the Webb, that will not be an option. It will be parked 1 million miles from Earth. That's 4 times the distance from the Earth to the moon. While it's named for the man who ran NASA in its glory days, the Webb telescope is an international project involving NASA, the Canadian and European space agencies, and workers from 29 countries. Now, its journey will take more than a month. Completely unfolding and setting up the telescope will take another 5 months, so we still have to be patient to see deep into the universe's past.
Wow, but 1 million miles from Earth.
That's a long round trip.
Yeah, at least they don't have to deal with the traffic.
That's true.
That folks traveling today have to.
COVID is touching every element of daily life, and major professional leagues are no exception. The NBA has been hit particularly hard with the rise in cases. Over 100 players out just this month. But the league appears determined to play on, which it did on Christmas, its annual marquee day featuring A-list players and teams, including Stephen Curry and the Golden State Warriors, who put on a Christmas clinic over Matt Barry's Phoenix Suns. Take a look.
Christmas Day in the NBA is a star-studded tradition. An all-day, all-you-can-watch buffet of the boldest names and biggest teams in the league. This year, superstars including Steph Curry, LeBron James, and Giannis Antetokounmpo headlining the Christmas spectacle. But the bright lights of the NBA's annual showcase have been dimmed, like so many aspects of holiday life nationwide, by the spread of the Omicron variant. The league postponing 7 games just last week, with 127 players entering health and safety protocols due to COVID-19 in the month of December. One of the teams hit hardest by the virus, the Boston Celtics, on Christmas facing the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks, with 2-time reigning MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo returning to the lineup from his own COVID-related absence. He scored 36 points and led the Bucks to a dramatic win. The New York Knicks kicked off the Christmas slate with a win at home over the Atlanta Hawks, while LeBron James and the Lakers fell to the Brooklyn Nets, who welcomed back James Harden from the COVID list while losing Kevin Durant to it.
Harden with a beautiful move.
The marquee matchup of the day saw Steph Curry and the Warriors hold off Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and the Phoenix Suns on ABC. The Dallas Mavericks downed star Luka Doncic due to COVID, and the Utah Jazz rounded out a Christmas unlike any other, during a season unlike any other. which NBA Commissioner Adam Silver is determined to continue without pause.
No plans right now to pause the season. We've, of course, looked at all the options, but frankly, we're having trouble coming up with what the logic would be behind pausing right now.
According to ESPN, the NBA and the NBA Players Association are negotiating a reduction in the 10-day quarantine requirement for players who test positive for COVID. The two sides are discussing bringing that down to 6 days.
Most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
It's an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do you evade capture for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new hunt wherever you get your podcasts.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
National parks are incredibly safe places, but crime will happen.
Hey, Mama. My wife has fallen. She's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident. There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? Figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart they did this.
It's the time of suspicion.
The ending's really tough.
You don't know whether truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
ABC News, America's #1 news source.